Greetings ATA community, welcome back to my second channel. I sincerely appreciate you taking the time to check out this channel. And if you're new here, I encourage you to take a look at the other videos on this channel just to kind of get a feel for the content. I plan to start posting here weekly, so check back Thursday of this coming week for another episode. Today we're going to be taking a look at an interaction featuring the auditor known as Jeff Gray. Jeff has been auditing for well over 10 years, and many people consider him to be one of the godfathers of First Amendment auditing. I've featured a couple of his encounters on the main channel, and it goes without saying that he's one of my favorite auditors. After looking through his channel, I noticed a video that was just a little bit too short to feature on the main channel, so I decided that I would cover it here instead. Like I mentioned before, we won't be taking a deep dive into this stuff, but we will be giving a cursory overview just to kind of get a sense of what's going on. So with all that said, let's dive right in and take a look at what Mr. Gray has been up to. Okay, just to set this video up, Mr. Gray was filming outside of Moody Air Force Base in Valdosta, Georgia. And this was back in 2014. Mr. Gray had heard rumors that auditors were being harassed for filming outside of the base, so he and his partner decided to conduct a First Amendment audit there. They weren't there very long before an officer arrived who Mr. Gray says is a federal officer, but he kind of appears to me to be a hired security guard. Whether or not this guy actually had federal law enforcement authority is questionable to me.
Hey, buddy.
How you doing?
All right. You just caught my attention, that's all.
Yeah.
Sit there and take a picture of the gate like that, you know?
Take a picture of the railroad.
I'll say pecan, okay?
One thing that I should note about this officer is that he approached Mr. Gray with a friendly attitude. Now, whether or not he is misinformed about the First Amendment and standing on a public sidewalk, who knows at this point. But I will say that he did approach Mr. Gray with a kind attitude and was friendly, which is a good start. So let's just see how it goes.
That gate right yonder.
Mm-hmm.
When you stand here doing that, that tells me to take a picture in that direction. You can say gate. I mean, you can say railroad, I can say gate. You got me out there.
Am I being detained?
B-Dog, this is police 4.
I'm getting a phone call at me. Just reaching my back pocket.
All right, well, he asked for Mr. Gray's ID, but he did not demand it. Anyone, whether or not they're a law enforcement officer, is free to walk up to another person and ask them to see their ID. But that person is also free to say no, and that would be considered a consensual encounter. This officer has not told Mr. Gray that he's been detained. He only asked if he can have his ID or see his ID. He asked him if he had ID on him. But I have a feeling that he's not going to stop there, so let's see where this goes.
Roger, we're just outside the main gate. Got an individual taking photographs toward the gate. Correct. Toward the gate at the north gate from all 3. Kenyatta County, come on out, please allow us to.
Okay, so the officer has decided that he wants to get the local PD out to, well, Lowndes County Sheriff's Department out to the scene, which I think is probably a good idea, especially if this guy is a security guard hired by the federal government, like I suspect. Even if this individual did have federal law enforcement authority, it might still be a good idea to contact the local sheriff's department or police department just to make sure that all of the state level protocols are followed. And it also provides an independent witness between you as a federal agent and the citizen. So overall, I think that this was a good idea to radio for the local PD to come out and make sure that everything was legal and just to observe the scene if nothing else. Because as of right now, Mr. Gray is still not detained. So as of right now, everything has been consensual and it appears as though Mr. Gray is free to walk away at any time.
That's right. He don't seem to be very cooperative. He don't want to say his vote. He'd rather not show his ID.
Well, I don't like that. I don't agree with the officer's decision to characterize Mr. Gray's decision not to provide his ID as being uncooperative. Mr. Gray politely declined a consensual question. Mr. Gray did nothing to suggest that he was being uncooperative. I think a lot of officers misconstrue someone not making their job easier as being uncooperative. If this individual wants to get Mr. Gray's ID, then he needs to satisfy the reasonable suspicion standard that was set forth by the Supreme Court. Not immediately surrendering your ID when you have been consensually asked to provide it is not the same thing as being uncooperative. So anyway, I disagree with the way that this guy characterized Mr. Gray's conduct.
All right, see y'all later. I'll see you later. Am I being detained or anything?
Yes, you're being detained.
For what reason?
This is the first time that Mr. Gray has been informed that he is being detained. But in order to be detained, you need to have reasonable suspicion that some type of criminal activity. And Mr. Gray is standing on a public sidewalk filming a gate. Now, I understand there are many misconceptions surrounding filming security installations, but the Supreme Court has essentially concluded that it's the government's burden to hide what it doesn't want to be seen from the public. I've covered this in a few different episodes of ATA, so just check the description below and I'll link one there. But all in all, Mr. Gray is well within his rights to film the gate of a military base as long as he is standing on a public sidewalk.
You're being detained.
For what reason?
Take pictures of gate today.
Is that illegal? Can I have your name and badge number, please? And your name and badge number?
Come to think about it, look, I'm not going to see her.
Okay, so I'm not being detained?
I can't do that.
All right, have a nice day.
Okay, so it looks like the officer realized that he was not within his authority to detain someone for simply recording. Now, there's certainly an argument to be made that Mr. Gray was illegally detained for those few seconds.
Have a nice one. Here, Lowndes County Sheriff's Department. There's the other federal cop. And there's Lowndes County. I'm gonna keep on walking. Good, how are you, sir? That's fine.
I'm Staff Sergeant Guthrie with the Lowndes County Sheriff's Office.
Nice to meet you, sir.
Nice to meet you. Can you tell me what's going on?
I was just taking pictures of the F-16, the static display and stuff like that, and I guess they don't like it very much. So
I understand. They need to go back and read the Constitution, I believe.
thank you. Good deal.
Not a problem. I'm not angry with you, not upset with you,
All right.
and you're not doing anything illegal as far as I'm concerned. Of course, you know, they get a little excited. But like I say, you're on a public access area. You could have a telephoto lens. It could go anywhere in there. It doesn't matter.
Right.
You're not violating any law. You're not violating the Constitution. You're not violating anything else.
Okay. God bless you, Sergeant.
Hey, man, no problem.
Thank you.
Am I right? How good does it get, you know? This is Sergeant Guthrie, and as you'll see through the rest of this episode, he's a good officer. Sergeant Guthrie approached Mr. Gray peacefully, calmly, with his hand outstretched, ready to be polite. It doesn't get much better than that, huh? He understood the situation, he understood the fundamental elements involved in this situation, and he did a great job of just approaching Mr. Gray with the intention of de-escalation and hopefully resolving his issues. I can't say enough good things about the way that Sergeant Guthrie approached Mr. Gray and his decision just to go out of his way to have a conversation with him. It really says a lot about Sergeant Guthrie's policing style, and I think that there's a lot to learn from that.
Like I say, I do.
How do you guys stand these bugs out here?
It's South Georgia. We get used to it.
Goodness gracious.
42 years worth, and I get used to it. Now, this older fella coming down here, he's not with you, is he?
He's my friend, yes.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Uh-huh.
Are y'all from around here?
See, I'm not going to answer too many questions. I appreciate you being nice, but
That's fine. Yes,
I'm not going
You don't have to answer any question I ask you, no, sir.
Thank you.
Not at all.
I like to remain silent as far as that goes.
Not a problem.
I'm just out here just taking pictures.
Yes, sir. Well, like I said, I don't have a minute of trouble with that. That's
Okay.
right.
Man, and look at that. An officer who doesn't get offended when someone says that they wouldn't like to answer their question. Mr. Gray said that politely. He said it nicely. He said it in a way that was meant to insinuate that because you're a police officer, I don't want to give you too many details. And Sergeant Guthrie, I think, interpreted that the correct way and responded appropriately. He respected Mr. Gray's rights and his right to remain silent and his decision to remain silent as well. Because there's a big divide between respecting the right to silence and then respecting the decision to remain silent. Some officers will say, okay, I'll respect your right to remain silent, and then they won't ask you any questions, but they were obviously aggravated by the idea of you being quiet. But Sergeant Guthrie went out of his way to insinuate to Mr. Gray that he was not offended that he didn't want to answer any questions. And he even went as far as saying that that's your right. You have a right not to answer any questions that I ask you. That sentiment should be at the forefront of every officer's mind whenever they ask anyone any questions. And I think it's always important for officers to bear in mind that they're in uniform. When an officer in uniform asks someone a question, it doesn't have the same tone and value as literally anyone else asking you a question. There are serious connotations and implications associated with answering anything that an officer asks. And it doesn't even matter how minuscule that question is. The point is that I totally respect Sergeant Guthrie's candor, and I wish that more officers acted like this whenever someone invoked their right to remain silent.
You know what? I'll go ahead and be honest with you. It is. I work for Photography Is Not a Crime.
Yes, sir.
Out of Miami.
Yes, sir.
And we conduct First Amendment tests.
Yes, sir.
We'll go to places where typically what happens is I'll get a message about somebody saying, hey, I was out here taking pictures. They threatened to arrest me, they snatched my camera, they deleted my stuff like that. So
violation of your constitutional rights.
Right. So then what I'll do is I'll say, okay, well, if I can, I'll go check it out and test it. So that's what I'm doing.
I watch that stuff all the time on YouTube. So
okay,
yes, sir. I'm
good man.
first.
Well, that's certainly interesting, to know that Sergeant Guthrie has watched First Amendment audits on YouTube. I think that goes to show that the First Amendment community really is penetrating a lot of places that it probably never thought that it could. I'm sure that there are many officers out there who have been made better by the content that a lot of these First Amendment auditors produce. And I can only hope that ATA has positively contributed to an officer out there somewhere. It's good to know that the auditing community is progressing in a lot of ways. And hopefully the public perspective on the auditing community can change as the community grows and reaches more people, particularly people in law enforcement. It seems like Sergeant Guthrie has been positively impacted by some of the work that First Amendment auditors have done in the past. And I think that that's a good thing to showcase in any video.
And like you say, there are people out there. They really are people out there that do that.
Yeah.
Just know there are some educated folks out here to carry a badge and gun.
Right. Oh yeah, I come across those too. Matter of fact, I think the second or third most viewed video I have is of a good cop.
Yes, sir.
That was.
I wish we could all be that way. I really do. We're not out here to do anything other than to enforce the law. So if you're not breaking the law,
okay.
I've held you up long enough, and like I said, I don't want to detain you in any way, shape, form, or fashion. Very nice.
Sergeant Guthrie, nice to meet you.
Good luck with you, and I hope everything goes well for you. Okay.
Stay safe out there.
Wow. Just what a perfect police interaction, right? If only all police officers had the patience and the candor and the understanding and knowledge that Sergeant Guthrie has. I realize we don't live in a fantasy world where every police interaction can turn out like this one, but we certainly do live in a world where many police interactions could have turned out like this, but didn't. Unfortunately, Sergeant Guthrie passed away in 2016 after serving 18 years with the Lowndes County Sheriff's Office. It's certainly tragic to lose an officer that was no doubt educated and courteous, and it seemed to me that Sergeant Guthrie really did care about his job. And I think that what a lot of police departments suffer from is a lack of passion for police work. Many officers just see their job as a job, but police work is so much more than that, and that's why there's an entire subculture built around it. Sergeant Guthrie's conduct during this interaction was nothing short of perfect, and this video is really a testament to his character and his performance as an officer. And I hope that this episode helps his name live on for just a little bit longer. Anyway, that's all I got for you today. Like I said earlier, check back not this coming Thursday, but the next Thursday, and there will be a new episode on this channel. I'm going to be uploading weekly, so stick around, help me grow, like, subscribe. I would sincerely appreciate it if you would give me your support and help me grow this second channel. Comment below what you would like me to cover, what you would like to see on this channel, what type of content you would like to see. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you for watching to the end of this episode, and I'll see you next week. Cheers.